Our next session is a case study focused on the revenue impact of scalable customer education, turning enablement into revenue. I would love to welcome Michelle Dizon, Head of Scale, Success, and Customer Education at Fathom AI. Could we just give her a round of applause? Yeah.
Everyone's okay? Yeah, those lights are blinding. Okay, thanks everyone. Welcome and thank you for the intro. So I'm here obviously to talk about, oh, it is not advancing. It's advancing here, but not on here. No? I just talked to this slide the whole time. Might be a little boring for you guys. Nope, now it's me. Right? I know. Oh, there we go. That's it. All right. Thank you. Thanks. So this is just a really long way to say that I'm going to talk a little bit about using customer enablement, customer onboarding, customer education, whatever title you're using at your organization to drive revenue growth, right? That's what people care about in your business. My name is Michelle Dizon. I am the head of scale, success, and customer education, another long title for what I do, but I run sort of our very small business scale side of the house from a success standpoint, coupled with our customer education. So my background primarily is in some form of training, building e-learnings, that type of thing. Moved into customer success when I did about a 6.5, 7-year stint at PagerDuty, where I built up PagerDuty University there. That was a revenue driver as well, but we sold it as a post-sale service. So slightly different, but another way to drive revenue. Here, it's a little bit different again, so I am running success with part of customer education, so part of success and customer education, trying to see how we can really drive those two together. I am just about to cross my 1 year, so it's been a wild, fun 1 year, but LinkedIn lied and already pushed out to everybody that I've celebrated 1 year, so anyways, a little premature. Here we are. So let's start with these two quotes. I want you to sort of read them. So Fathom is an incredible tool. Yes, it is. But it doesn't sync information to my CRM, so we've decided to cancel. That's kind of a bummer. Wow, I had no idea Fathom did that. So at first glance, this bottom quote seems cool, right? Yes, they didn't know. We taught them something new. And this top quote seems kind of crummy. Well, we do sync information to your CRM. So not only is it crummy that they're going to cancel, we didn't end up saving them. But they're canceling for something that we do already offer to them. Well, how is that happening, right? And this quote here came from one of our webinars where someone was in a webinar, had already bought our tool or was on the free offering, and they're excited because they're learning something new. I said to my boss, I never want to see that ever again. I'm tired of people coming to these webinars or coming to us, and they don't know what we do. How many people in this room are building or a part of or considering building some form of customer education, just by raising hands? Okay, awesome, good, a good majority of you, that's great. I apologize in advance because it's it's a struggle, and I've been there a couple times. So, although there wasn't really a problem at Fathom, we are growing organically on our own, right? The company is continuing to grow on its own. We have no problems when it comes to growth ARR. But we continue to see quotes like that, right? So our problem was that people came to us for transcription, right? We are an AI note-taking tool, right? Like the Gongs, the Granolas, the Otters of the world. We do it better, but we are one of those tools. And people came to us for one reason, but we do a breadth of other things. So that double click that makes us really sticky, really impactful, people were just either not sure about it or they just didn't have the capacity or the time to really dig in. So same for you. What if when you're building these customer education programs, your biggest problem isn't any of these things, pipeline, pricing, even your product, but it's that your customers don't understand. It's easy to sit in your company and say, our tool is so awesome, it's the best one out there, isn't it great, it does all these fantastic things, and your customer says, what's that funny term you use to call that thing? I don't know what you're using, right? I'm out, I'm not gonna dig in anymore. So for those of you who are building, this is probably old news, so I won't go too deep into it, But I've been doing this for a long time, almost 20 years building this type of thing. Started when it was a plugin for PowerPoint. They were atrocious e-learnings at that point. But regardless, the old world very much was webinars, docs, like terrible long e-learnings, still the health and safety ones we all have to go through where you click through it as fast as you can because you know the answers. It was really looked at as a cost center, right? Shifting into this new world, which I very much am living and breathing at Fathom, is scalable education, right? And that's not just-in-time training, even though that is what we're sort of going towards, but it's scalable one-to-many, scalable at your organization, keeping your costs low, making sure you're impacting as many customers as you possibly can. And it's a revenue engine, right? Again, you don't have to sell it like I did at PagerDuty, but at some point, you need to make sure that it's helping your top line, right? Your revenue. So it becomes a growth driver. So here's the problem. I see people nodding their heads. Yes, yes, we agree. This is what we're all trying to do. But most educations still aren't doing that, right? So you're putting out these things, and I did this before at PagerDuty. I've done it even before that, where you're putting out these courses or these knowledge-based articles or webinars or whatever it is, and you're measuring them based on like the activity in that moment. A person attended my webinar. Check. A person finished a course. Great. Certifications were had. But does that really drive the bottom line? Does that change the behavior? Are you measuring what needs to, happen? Adoption, retention, growth? It's like building this massive library. The library comes up again. So it's like building a massive library and nobody knowing what to do. Every book is in there, but nobody knows what to do. You're just like chucking every book in the world in there. It's sort of useless. So let's get into it, right? It's a little bit of the premise. But what we really care about is these types of things, like measuring the change that these programs are driving. So how do we change adoption and time to value? Because that's what matters. I'm in SaaS, but in all organizations, it's the same thing, right? Somebody's paid for your product or service. They want to see the value as quickly as possible. They want to use the thing that they've purchased. So I'm going to make this statement. I actually truly believe it. Scalable customer education is the fastest way to accelerate time to value and adoption. I truly believe that, right? It's the fastest way. Doesn't mean that you have to get rid of your AEs or your CSMs or your support people or your CSEs or whatever it is. It just means that this is a way to catch it really quickly, right at the forefront of your customers, right? If you build scalable education or an enablement model, it is going to get you here the fastest. So as we walk through this, I want you to remember that when I make these programs, when I make decisions, I try and ground it in three things: revenue, cost, and risk, RCR, right? It's very, very normal in sales to have those things in the back of your mind. But you should be thinking about those things too. So when you're designing these programs, when you're buying new software, whatever it is, how are you making those decisions that are going to increase revenue, decrease cost, or decrease risk, either for your organization or the people you're selling to? Equally important, right? So let's talk about onboarding. So most companies really are sort of losing the game early. Not because your product is bad, but because the learning curve is steep, right? I'm going to use Fathom as an example here. Fathom is a very, very easy tool to use, right? Please all go and try it. But it is an easy tool to use. You sort of download it and turn it on, and it transcribes your call, summarizes your call, and captures your video for you. Super. That's what it does. So what happens? Why are we not getting people where we want to go? Well, you go in there and they have zero clarity. Your customers have zero clarity on where to start, right? So even when they go in there and they see their first call, we expect them to want to go and play with the next level tool, which is template customization, right? Make this summary the one that you want. But they don't know to start there. They don't know to go to the gear icon. They don't know to click on their settings and then go there. So we're thinking it's plug and play. Us as a company, you guys as a company, you think it's plug and play. Your customer gets in there and they have cognitive overload. They're like, I bought this tool for this one thing and now I don't know what to do, right? So then what happens is we say to them, oh my gosh, as soon as we rolled out this new feature, nobody adopted it. Let's put more knowledge base articles in our knowledge base, right? Let's have another webinar. Let's have another e-learning that nobody's going to watch. And that more content doesn't solve the problem. Let's go back to the library example. So we're in a library, right? There's all the books in the world, and I ask all of you one simple question, right? What is the earliest recorded joke in human history? I can guarantee you could all answer that question without your computers and without your phones in the library. I can guarantee you would all get to the answer of that question at some point. But you may go down this path, you may go down this path, you may give up at some point. Some people are going to open 10 books, some people are going to open 2. It's the same with your product, right? If you're just throwing more content at them at any given point in their journey, they're going to be like, whoa, that's too much. I didn't solve anything. I'm just going to go back and use this tool for what I think it does. And then they're probably going to leave, right? Because they're not seeing that stickiness. They're not seeing the value. So there's me. It's my avatar. It's not actually me. It's an avatar. But so what we ended up doing is we tried, and we're still trying. I fail a lot of times. I screw up all the time. I tell my team that all the time. Some of these are mistakes we're going to learn from. But instead of generic onboarding, try delivering the exact lesson at the exact moment for that exact problem or context, right? So we're using this tool called Saltfish. Highly recommend checking them out. They're still very small, they're very agile, they're very startup-y, but they're doing some really cool things in the world. So what we're doing is we're taking triggers in our product and making sure we're meeting the customer where they are. So you're a customer, you've bought this portion of our product, you're at this point in your onboarding journey, meet my shell, my avatar. I'm going to pop up. A lot of people are going to ignore me. We see like this goes through thousands and thousands of people a day, and we see, some thousands of them ignore me. It's an avatar. My feelings aren't hurt. It's okay. I don't see that. But I'm meeting the customer where they are. So we've rolled this out in 2 ways. We've rolled it out on our pricing page, and we did an A/B test where we said, with my shell on there, walking people through our pricing, what happens versus without. And we saw a 14% increase in our CTA. That's huge. That means that not only did 14% more people click on the thing we wanted them to, but we also reduced the toil on the other people that would be involved, support, AEs, CSMs, because those people bought the wrong product, paid the wrong price, whatever it is. So that's a big one. In the product, this is super important. We've built out some pretty long flows because we want to make sure people are doing the things that we want. The way the product works is that it tells us where people drop off. So they did these things and dropped off. One of the behaviors we want them to do is that customizing templates. And I have to walk them through a couple steps before I get there. 75% of the people that start that journey get to click on that gear icon, which is wild. It means they're actually following me and doing the action we want them to do in the moment we want them to do it. What's super important about that is that first we thought, oh no, they all drop off after that. It was like a 90% cliff at that moment. No, what they were doing is playing with the tool. They got to a point with Fathom that they didn't know before, and then they got excited by it and played with the tool. And then they turned on that customization. So, all right, we've increased adoption, we've moved our TTV faster. Well, now we want to keep these customers happy, right? We want to talk about retention, expansion, ARR. So this is a very simple chain, right? It's really easy to understand. Every SaaS business is probably using something like this. But any one of these pieces that drops off, there's a potential for revenue leak. Any one of them. You want them to understand your product. Maybe that's why they came to you, because they understand their problem statement or your product. Then you want them to use your product. Clearly, that's why they're paying it for you. That's why they're there. You want them to see value from your product, right? Because that's going to drive them to renew when it's time to pay you again. And then that's going to potentially drive them to expand. When you roll out a new portion of your product, something else, go back and start again, right? It's a cycle. It continues to happen. Every time that you roll out something new, you add something new, you make it more complex, back to the understanding we go. Because if you take out usage after you've rolled out that new product and they go back to understanding, but they don't use that new part of your product, they're not going to see the value, they're not going to renew, and they're not going to expand. So, and we're talking about expansion. The other thing that we did is when I got brought on, I did make a joke to my manager that, I don't know if there's a problem here. I'm not going to have to do customer education in any way, shape, or form. Well, I'll get to that, but I do. And so what we did, low-hanging fruit for our very small business, our scale customers, was let's roll out a webinar, right? Let's just see if people want to see, more about this product. And so we did. We started it weekly, and then we had such big success, we did it twice weekly. And then we had such a high success rate, we are now doing it daily. Every single day, 5 days a week, all of the year long. And we're seeing about a 30% registrant to attendance rate, which is huge. Every single day, that's huge. And then people can go back and watch it if they didn't attend or if they want to see it later. So that's one big piece, right? Low-hanging fruit, easy, scalable, one-to-many. These are customers that are not going to get a CSM. They're not going to have the white glove service, right? So we're finding them where they are, and they're attending. We're tracking it all in our CRM, right? How many people here use HubSpot? Okay. All right, yes, welcome to the new age. I did use Salesforce for the majority of my life, so it's also a great tool when you're like a startup. Most people lean into HubSpot. So HubSpot is our CRM. Salesforce is very similar. We track everything in HubSpot. It is our source of truth for every single thing that we do. And so we pump this back into there. We pump our Salesforce data back into there. We even pump our product usage data into HubSpot so that we can activate all of this information in a single place. And that's super important when it comes to these metrics. So education really does scale revenue without scaling people, right? When I was at PagerDuty, I had 16 to 18 people on my team. We had, bigger customers, bigger problems, fine. A little bit of a different scenario. But I'm never going to have a team that is that deep, right? And that's not because I don't think there's a good people out there that need these jobs. In this world, I'm not going to. Maybe I hire more DCSMs. Maybe it doesn't matter. But I'm not scaling people. The goal here is to offer scalable solutions where one piece of content can hit thousands of people, millions of people, right? But again, don't chuck them in a library with all the content in the world, because it's not going to help. Might help 10 of those people, but it's not going to help the majority of those people. So I want to talk about this alignment framework because I think it's important when you're thinking about where you get this information from. So every part of your organization has some indication of what's going wrong, right? They also know what's going right. There are certain parts of your organization that knows what's going right. My colleague Alyssa, who runs our our support organization, we just did a talk in LA at a support summit. And we went there to talk about how our two teams are aligning on this maturity curve and what we're doing together to try and build out sort of this like engine when it comes to content and meeting our customers where they were. And so what we really, like where we started, she started before I did, so her team's a little bit more mature, is like ad hoc, right? Again, customer has a problem, build new offering, right? Everyone's sort of hectic, it's very customer specific, you're doing a lot of things that are slightly the same or slightly different over and over and over and over and over. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of space. Manual, one-off. Maturing is really where my team sits. We're sort of leaning into optimizing right now, but really my team really sits in the maturing. So we're starting to see themes emerge, which is the most important thing. Hey, this thing happens quite a bit, or we're seeing this a lot, or we're hearing this a lot. We're getting these inputs multiple times from multiple places. And what we want to get into is this place where, again, we're getting the content and pushing content and getting the content and pushing the content based on the behavior change that our customers require to use the tool the way we want them to be using, or the way they want to be using it, right? And so if we look at this and we have fewer reactive tickets, right, whether it's tickets or it's CSMs or it's salespeople, burning their time, moving into higher product adoption, which then drives stronger customer loyalty, right? If someone uses our tool just for call transcribing, it is the best transcription out there, but there are many offers that are free, right? Zoom hits you every single day when you take a call and says, hey, we transcribed your call for you. Notion now transcribes calls. If they aren't using the AI, the double click, the automation that's built into our tool, none of this matters. So if they are, they become loyal customers. They stick with us. And then that drives revenue, right? Again, I'm not selling training, but I am driving revenue. So I am going to use Fathom here as an example on this alignment framework, because this is how we do it with our own tool. So we capture it with Fathom. Obviously, all of our calls are captured with Fathom, so we capture all of these conversations with our customer using Fathom. Again, I'm not pushing Fathom. Use whatever tool you use, but capture those conversations. They could even come in from support tickets. Capture those conversations, right? Analyze them. I don't actually mean like look through these call transcripts yourself. Use the tools. This is what AI is making all of our lives so much easier. Analyze that information where it comes in. Get a tool to do that for you. And then it says transiate, but that's just an image. Translate into action, right? What does that mean? What behavior do you need to change? So what we do with Fathom is we capture it, Fathom analyzes it, right? It plugs into a whole bunch of other tools. And what we have now is we have these Slack channels set up. We have a boom, we have an anti-boom. We have a whole bunch of Slack channels. So these are just easy examples. The boom one obviously pulls from calls where customers said nice things about Fathom. I love Fathom. Fathom does this for me. And it automatically pushes out to that Slack channel for us so that CSMs, sales, leaders can all look in there and say, oh, people love this portion of our tool. The anti-boom is the opposite of that. Someone said something bad about our product. The product isn't working the way that we want. And so from that, we can activate. I can build more different forms of education based on the good and the bad, right? If people love this portion of the tool, let's get them deeper. Let's get it stickier. If people aren't using this or are stumbling or hate this portion of the tool, maybe we should do some different things there, right? So we're using our own, we're eating our dog food, drinking our champagne, whatever you want to call it, but we're using our own tool. There's other ways to do this, but it's super important that internally, all of the teams that hear things from your customers are bringing that to a central place. One of the issues that we had at PD was we were very disparate. We had content being developed and inputs coming in so many different places that we were just recreating the wheel over and over and over, and none of them were super effective because we just kept on doing the same thing in different ways on different teams. So metrics that matter. Metrics it's how I run my life. Even like some of my kids' life, I have to use metrics to make sure that everything's in order. Metrics do matter. They matter to your board. They matter to your managers. They matter to your customers. It is the bottom line. That's what people want to know. So most education's metrics are like polite, right? Like course completion, time spent. I already sort of joked about that. They tell you that someone looked at something, not that their behavior changed. If you can't tie education to revenue, you're measuring the wrong things. And I did that for 7 years, right? So don't worry, I've already made that mistake. I fell on my face. But you are measuring the wrong things, and it doesn't have the impact that you want. You need to make sure it's tied back to that RCR in a way that you can prove. The other thing I need you all to understand is, like, it doesn't mean that you have to say they came to my webinar and then as a direct result, they expanded. That's never going to happen, right? Because then your sales rep's going to say, but I talked to them, and your CSM's going to go, well, I have a relationship with them. Awesome. We're all a family going for the same thing here, right? We're all driving the success of the company. You just want to be able to measure you had a hand in it, right? That you were a cog in that wheel. So what does matter, right? Adoption, time to value, retention, expansion. That's the scoreboard. That's the real shift. So this is what you want to be able to do. You want to be able to draw a line all the way from left to right, right? And if you can draw a line, then you don't have an education anymore. You have a growth engine. You've created a growth engine, but you need to be able to measure what education did to your behavior, what the outcome was, right? In my example, they clicked on the gear icon and started using that part of the product that they were not using before. That's the outcome. And then what do you think happens? I'm actually able to measure from the outcome which of those accounts didn't churn, which of them expanded, and which of them maybe went from monthly to annual with us. All of those things are awesome. Again, it's not saying my team is the only team that had a hand in that, but I'm able to draw a line through that, and that's super, super important. So I promised I'd talk about some tools. I'm running out of time, so I'll do it really quickly. You might want to take a quick shot of that if you are looking at some different tools. I did talk about Saltfish. Definitely look at this tool called Hey Kulu. It only says Kulu there. It's an excellent tool that almost acts as a CSM for your smaller accounts and reads your CRM. So it really sort of pushes that information and pulls the information. Quivly is like a data center for you. Actually, this is another one that you should be looking at. Quivly is like a data center that pulls all of your customer data into one place so that your CSM, so that your team, so that your education teams can activate on it. Chameleon is another onboarding tool, similar to like a Pendo, Novatic, that walks you through portions of the product, but it's a little bit more AI driven, and it really does sort of like help you through. I truly believe in a better together situation. And so I joke with my team members who I've worked with for a long time about this idea of building another academy, and I'm like a little bit sick to my stomach when I talk about it. Oh, more e-learnings, because I don't know if that's the way of the world. But I did bring on a really smart individual, and she's building out a plan. And I think the key here is that even though we're building multiple offerings when it comes to an education ecosystem, it's like a hot term this year, she's making sure that they all have a goal that's slightly different. So we're not building the same content just over and over and over willy-nilly. We're saying you go to knowledge base as the source of truth. If you want to go there for the answer to your question, you come to the academy because you're like, I love Fathom. I want the swag. I want to get the certifications. I want to become, a Fathom Knight. And then you go to the community because you do want to drive more conversations, right? So there's multiple ways. And then we have knowledge base on top of this. We have our chat bots and all of the things. I honestly believe, meet your customers where they are. Give them every opportunity to learn. It's not going to hurt you. The cost to you is so low that if you say, there's there's all of these ways for you to learn about our product, as long as they can choose their own adventure, you're gonna make the right decisions. And everyone's going to do it a little differently. I want to give one example. When I go, I'm a DIYer. I'm not great at it, but I'm a DIYer. When I want to fix something in my house, like the pipe is broken, I go to YouTube, right? When I go to YouTube, I don't care why you became a plumber. I'm sorry, I don't care. I don't have time for that. If I'm doing a recipe, I don't care where you found this mushroom on this remote island. I want the recipe. I want the way to fix the pipe while my toilet's leaking all over the floor, right? Same goes for your customers. They don't care why you built this piece of the product. They don't care that it's like 13 clicks down because you think that's the right thing to do. They care about their experience in that moment when they need it, right? So every customer conversation really is trying to tell you something. Make sure you're listening, gathering, activating that information. The key insight you need to hone in on are where are customers getting stuck? What's blocking value and where don't they understand? Building and offering scalable customer education doesn't just support the growth of your organization, it's a growth engine that you're going to be able to truly measure. That's it. 2 minutes over. Sorry.
I can grab you a mic.
Thank you. This resonated so deeply with also my colleague who's online. That's why we were messaging. How do you manage content creation and the collaboration with marketing, just so that to make sure we're not like spamming our communities?
Yeah. So these interesting gray areas where product marketing overlaps with marketing with your customer education team. One thing when I came to Fathom, I was like, we're never doing that again, where we were sort of pushing and pulling and it was a bit of an issue. Best case scenario is you have a centralized content hub. There is a team or a person who's responsible for the first line of defense internally. And generally what happens there is, so we have a internal knowledge base. The person who writes that, the rest of us pull from it, right? And so we've drawn a line in the sand where my team starts and stops and the PMM starts and stops, right? So from free to paid onwards type of thing. But if you can have one team or person that is in charge of that first level of content, you're less likely then to push out content that's slightly different from all of the other teams in your organization. But again, I'm trying it now, so it may fail.
Did you have one?
Yeah. Thanks, Michelle. I'm definitely going to check out the tools. One of the question I had around was around the webinar attendance. You mentioned move from one webinar to 5 webinars, and webinar is an area I think generally industry-wide everyone's struggling with, right? There's low attendance. So what strategies work for you, and what other tools you're trying, or what other forms, not webinar, what other strategies for customer education that you're trying?
Yeah.
That's my question.
For sure.
And I'll ask you the other one after.
Okay, yeah, great. So we did purchase a tool called Get Contrast to run our webinars. It's a slightly funner way of running the webinar. So it's a little flashier. There's a little more tools in the background. That's actually how we came across Saltfish, was that they onboarded us, and my boss and I were like, that's a good way to onboard. So I definitely think try and make your webinars a little more interactive. Use a tool like that. We have automated emails based on plans, tiers, and usage in our product that push out through HubSpot. So if a user hits 3 calls, they get an email from our VP of support. In that email, we say, hey, try our webinar. In their very first sign up, we have a box. So we have multiple ways. All of our supports, when they respond, every footer says try our webinar, try our webinar, try our webinar. So we're trying again to deflect some of those onesie twosie tickets that come in. Again, it's not perfect. I will see days where we have 40, 50 people, and then I'll see days where it's like 7, right, people. So time of the year, kids are out of school, holidays, whatever it is, you see ebbs and flows of it. But definitely, I think, try a flashier webinar. Make sure that it's getting pushed out by multiple different areas. The other thing is that your sales and your CS and your support love training people. They love training people. It's such a good feeling for them to be able to, like, I did this thing, check, my customer's happy. You have to start that idea of like, that's high cost, low reward for us as an organization. It's time for you to like, let the tooling do that so that you can up-level yourself to do the things that you're here to do strategically.
Did you have another question?
I can ask.
Oh, well, okay. Any other questions?
Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
So you have lots of audio and video for your application.
Oh, I think the mic might be off. Sorry. Or is it dead?
It should be working.
So you might have lots of audio and videos for your tool.
Yeah.
And how you are trying to manage the
I knew this question would come.
amount of cost
Yeah.
you incur for APIs hits, and what are your thoughts on how to not bombard the LLMs for your requirements, but to have an optimized solution for it in terms of cost as well as power consumed to cater to these needs?
Yeah, is this for the training specifically or for Fathom videos?
Fathom
is the
videos
whole
and
thing.
everything, I mean to say.
For the training?
Yeah.
Specifically. So right now, actually, we don't have a ton of videos. I think a lot of them in Saltfish, maybe, but we do try and change them quite often. I think where the biggest cost and the biggest issue is that because we're so agile as an organization and we're constantly pushing out new code, as you push out training that's video-based, it's immediately stale, right? Here's a new video. Oh, but we released this new part of our product and it makes that whole video stale, and then we have to redo it. So when I am talking to new vendors about training solutions, one of my first questions to them is like, how is this going to make my training team's lives easier? What are you going to do to automatically update this for me, or at least flag that this is stale? But from like a housing cost, I wouldn't say that's a huge expense for us from a video perspective.
And the second question I had, like, how you are trying to ensure privacy across the enterprise, like the data that you are having, how you're trying to ensure it's secure while it's getting exposed to the AI?
Our actual Fathom videos?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a CTO question, not a Michelle Dizon question. But obviously, I mean, we have all the compliance in the world. Our one of the things that makes us one of the better products is that our security and our compliance structure is so integrated into what we do. We have customers that are having, like, we have doctors, right, that are having their conversations with their patients and pushing it through to their own records. We have to make sure all of that stays where it is. The biggest issue that we have, funny enough, is that people don't lock down their own accounts the way that they should, and then there's a risk, right? So again, back to customer education and onboarding, if we fail at that structure, then people are going to see hiccups like that where something's exposed, not because of the product, but because of how it's been set up.
So you have proper security guardrails
Yes. Yeah.
for that?
Everything,
Okay.
in everything that we do. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm getting the
Yeah,
get
thank
out
you.
of here sign.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Michelle.